Hello, everyone. Hi, welcome to Friday the 13th in the ABOO Facebook group and your lunchtime learning for Friday. And this is fabulous Friday the 13th because today we have EINAV AVNI, who is going to talk about, is language really the key to happiness? Obviously, a very pertinent subject for all us authors and aspiring authors. So welcome to AVNI, to EINAV. Hi, how are you, EINAV?
Hello, thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Great to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. EINAV, you are a confidence and empowerment catalyst, which is a really interesting description. You work with men and women to identify what's holding them back from having the extraordinary lives they were meant to live. And you help your clients identify their negative self-talk, which I guess is the language we're really talking about today, and the limiting beliefs that contribute to them feeling stuck, unhappy, lacking in confidence, and sometimes with no clear idea of how to move forward. So EINAV, tell us how you got here, what led you into this kind of work, and what's your journey been?
Absolutely. Well, I guess the immediate answer to all of this is that I guess I am now the coach that I needed when I was growing up. When I look back at when I was very young, I was that person that really needed to talk about confidence. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that anyone cared or that I could do anything really. And slowly, throughout life, I changed. I realized that actually all of these feelings and the fears that I was going through was not necessarily because I was lacking. It was just because, my surroundings were such that my actions, their actions didn't translate into what I translated into confidence, power, empowerment, or, being me. I never felt that I could be me. The reason, I'll just jump into that, the reason why I call myself a catalyst now rather than a coach is because I feel that coach is a little bit diluted. It's not exactly what I do. What I really do with my clients is I basically go on that journey with them because I know what they're going through. I know all these doubts and all the fears that they're going through. And I want to be there to hold their hands in a sense and say, hey, it's okay. I get you. I really understand. Now, to become a coach, I only became a coach really about 3 years ago, just over. I was before that I was in IT. I was a user experience designer, helping people to create websites and systems that are friendly and easy to use. But I knew that something was missing. I mean, it was no longer about the machines and the mindsets and how they were accepting the task that they needed to do. But it was really about how they were feeling about what they wanted to do and what brought them there. And it was beyond that. And then one day I thought to myself, I realized that actually enough was enough. I couldn't just, pretend anymore that life was about machines and websites and stuff. And then I took a step back, jumped ship, went to do my coaching course, and I was here since then.
Well, that's amazing. That's a really interesting transition from a very technical and, as you say, machine-based kind of career into just working with people. But you still are scientifically based, are you not? Because you combine neuroscience with coaching, catalysting, whatever, and also spirituality. So how do you combine those things? How do you work with all those elements, EINAV?
I find all of this so fascinating because we come to our lives thinking, there's something wrong with me, or even worse, there's something wrong with everyone around. But we don't understand it, and we see that we are doing things again, and we don't like what we're doing, and we don't like how we don't know what to do with it. And sometimes we try a little bit here and a little bit there, and it's like, I don't know what to do. That's that feeling of being stuck and feeling really frustrated. And actually what I help people do when I talk about neuroscience is really understanding how our brain works, how it all comes together, and understanding that the reason why you do the same things again is not necessarily because you have control over it. It's actually because your brain created a habit, and now it's in place, and now you can't really argue with that. So just to explain a little bit more, if I may.
Yes, please.
It's really about understanding that we have two entities within us, right? We have the conscious mind, we have the unconscious mind that some people call the subconscious mind. But the point is that our brain has to process all the information that comes through to it. From the conscious mind, it receives around 34 bits of information per second. And
Wow.
that is being received through our senses. So what we hear, what we see, what we taste, what we feel, in every second that passes, there are about 34 bits of information that is coming through. This is from the conscious mind. From the unconscious mind, the brain receives about 2 billion bits of information per second.
Seriously, wow, that's ridiculous. I mean, how do we cope with that?
Exactly. So the brain, because it has so much processing to do, it can't. It knows that if it has to process from scratch every detail, every information that comes its way, it will just explode. It can't handle it. So what it very cleverly does, it says, okay, you've done this thing once, you had the same kind of emotion. As soon as it recognizes that you've done it again, it says, right, here's your pattern, here's a habit. I don't care about that anymore. I created a shortcut that is helpful for me, so I don't have to process it from scratch. And that's it. Basically, it's helping itself to save on processing powers.
Right. So everything that we experience sort of almost more than once becomes fixed as a pattern. So we need to be very careful about how we form these subconscious habits.
This is it's a little bit more complicated than that, because
I'm sure it is.
because you see, for example, say you're going on a date with someone that you really, really care about, and you sit there and the date is wonderful, and there's a song and you're like, oh, this is just perfect. And then, you go and you have a dance or whatever. And then, it doesn't matter anymore what happened with that person in the relationship. 13 years later, you can be hearing that song and, immediately it brings you back to that time. So,
yeah. I think that's something everybody will recognize, the song that brings back memories.
Yeah, songs or smells or these things, it immediately brings you back. Now, this is what I was saying. This is a little bit more complicated because we can't really control these things and emotions that come up for us. But the point is that if if you, I don't know, if you go and you look at yourself in the mirror, for example, that happens to a few people, and they go and say, oh, really no. And then they do it again, and again, look at themselves in the mirror, and, really no. If it's the same emotion, the same thought that comes up, now the brain says, okay, so every time you go through, when you see yourself in the mirror, this is your response. This is how it's going to be. The brain does that to help itself, to ease up
to make life simple.
But for us, it doesn't care if this is a good habit or a bad habit. And sometimes you're like, hey, why do I do the same thing again and again? I don't get it. So that's why I kind of think that when you understand why the brain is doing things, it is much easier to understand, okay, if I want to change that, I can't just say, okay, now I'm going to do things differently, because that's not going to be enough.
Right.
There needs to be a lot of thinking into that, a lot of planning to say, first of all, is like to have another conversation that says, it is going to take a while to rewire the way that we think or the way that we do things. So then we also need to understand that our automatic response is going to be this way. And now if you want to do something else, it has to be intentional. It has to be intentional, and it has to be repeated again and again and again and again until at some point we change our habit. But this is one reason why habits are a little bit more challenging to change, because we need to rewire, we need to fight something that our brain just created in no time to help itself processing stuff.
That makes a total sense when you say it like that. But it's easy to form habits unconsciously, but harder to reform new habits over the old ones and because you have to do that consciously.
Yes, just correct. I mean, we don't form the habit unconsciously. It's the brain is doing that. It's not
Yes.
something that we have no say in that. But yes,
right.
So that's why, understanding the brain, understanding how we operate in this sense is very helpful to what I do. So
yeah.
And I also bring in the spirituality bit, because it is really also for me about understanding that a lot of the time, one of our biggest problem is that we try to control outcomes. And you see people go into huge lengths of efforts to say, okay, so this is what's going to happen. And if I do this, this will happen. And this, they really go into all of that to make sure that what they plan is going to happen. And then it never does. And then they become very stressed, or maybe they become stressed about thinking about how it's going to happen. But actually, when you say, do you know what? I set the intentions. This is what I want to happen. In my opinion, at this moment, this is the best outcome. And then when you release it and you say, right, universe, you take that, you deal with it, you know what to do. All of a sudden, you don't need to worry so much, because you recognize that, first of all, you don't have any control over anything. And second thing is that whatever needs to happen is going to happen. So I guess that's the tip of where spirituality comes from.
Right. That's fascinating. So when you are when you're working on people with this habit changing, the need they have to change their habits, what are the tools you use, the conscious tools that you give them to make those changes? And are they you say, is language really the key to happiness? Is this you using language to help people change their habits?
Right. So it's yes. I don't always call things habits, but I definitely want to help people to recognize where they are at the moment and understand what is keeping them there. Right. So what I always start with is, like I said, we have two forces, right? We have the unconscious mind, we have the conscious mind. Unconscious mind is the realm of our emotions. It's the realm of the feelings, creativity, the knowing. This is everything. If we talk about brain processing powers, our brain gives 5% of its capacity or its workforce to the conscious mind and 95% to the unconscious mind. So the unconscious mind is really that force that knows. It's what you really want to make your best friend, if you can. And the unconscious mind has jobs. Like the first thing is that it stores all of your memories, everything that you've ever done, pretty much it stores. But the one job that it has, which in my opinion is the most beautiful one, is that it has the blueprint of the best version of ourselves, physically, spiritually, mentally, lovely, yes. Emotionally. And it's all the time steering us in the right direction. But then what happens? We have this thing that knows where we need to go. And then we counter that with the conscious mind, yes, which is of course the house of the logic and the realistic and the practical and all of that. But I like to twist that and say that it's the counter of the unconscious mind is actually the negative voice. And now we start to understand this huge conversation and the huge fighting that is happening within us. Because the unconscious mind says, hey, I think this idea is wonderful. For example, go and join a basketball team. And then you have the negative voice. And the negative voice was like, hey, hang on, that's a stupid idea, And then it brings the most horrific lies about why not to do it. And how does it make it so convincing is that it's latching on our biggest fears. So if my fear is, for example, if we talk about the basketball example, that, that I'm maybe I'm worried about not being liked, or if I'm worried about how my space in society or something like that, the lies that the negative voice is going to give me is that you're not very good at basketball. Everyone is going to make fun of you. No one is going to be your friends. You're going to be rejected. It basically talks too much to the fears. So I have something that I know I should do. That's the gut feeling, a feeling that I should do something. And because the unconscious mind, even though it's so vast, it's also very quiet. So unless we are able to recognize the conversation, we know there's something there, but we can ignore it. What we can't ignore is the negative voice. Now, what happens is that we believe that the negative voice is our best friend. So at the end of all this conversation, we will turn around and say, oh, thank you for saving me, for making a fool of myself. And, I didn't want to play basketball anyway, right? We compromise. So where language comes into all of this is because of course, language is how we communicate. We communicate externally, but we also communicate internally, right? We have mental movement nonstop, pretty much. Now, when we listen to the way that we speak to ourselves, we realize that, without exaggerating, probably about 80% of our thoughts are negative. And negative in a sense that is, I can't do this, I won't be able to do that, I'm not good enough, I'm not loved enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. It's all this, I can't, I won't. Basically, the negative voice has been doing a really good job at keeping us very scared.
Yeah.
The problem starts when we think about what is the unconscious. I like to call it the unconscious mind. People call it the subconscious mind.
There's all sorts of, it's sort of like there's lots of different descriptions of it, and Michaela's just reminded me that when I wrote a book of one's own, I created some archetypes, and my kind of version of that is, so Miss Moneypenny is your conscious mind, she's your kind of your gatekeeper, and then in the background you have the librarian working on, and this is very much in relation to writing books, but doing all that subconscious joining of the dots and finding information. So not in the same, kind of negative, positive way that you're talking about, but yes, it's so interesting. Conscious, subconscious, lots of, and Daniel Kahneman's thinking fast and thinking slow. I guess that's the same division, really, isn't it? So yeah, it's so interesting. So yeah, so what are the tools that you give people to actually disrupt this negative conversation?
Right. I just want to finish that thought, because I can build on that with the tools. When I was saying about the subconscious mind, actually subconscious comes from the subjective mind, which means that the unconscious mind, although it's vast, it doesn't generate its own ideas and opinions. It needs something to feed it, to command it. Now, if we constantly command negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative everything, that's what it does. So if I look in the mirror, or say, or if I say, I'm too poor, or I don't have enough money, or nobody loves me, this is what this unconscious mind does, or the subconscious mind does. It operates on the commands that we give it. So when we understand that, which is such a powerful thing to understand, that half of our problems really come from us giving commands, talking the language, giving the wrong commands to our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is very, it's like, yes, sorry, yes, ma'am. It's just doing what it's told. So if I'm telling it I can't afford it, it says, okay, so now we're doing I can't afford it. You will never be able to afford something if you keep telling yourself that you can't. So the tools that we want to talk about now, number one, never finish a negative thought. Make it up, make it positive. It doesn't matter. Your unconscious mind, subconscious mind doesn't know that you're lying.
So give me an example of that, EINAV.
Well, I've got so much money coming in. I am happy. I am healed. I am healthy. I am all of that. Basically, this is the step two, is basically, instead of saying what you always say, find new affirmation. The affirmation basically is of course the positive equivalent of what you're saying. So if I'm not feeling so well, if I say, I'm really not feeling so well, I have this painful, I have all these pains, our subconscious mind says, right, so I am keeping the pain in place. I am doing it because that's what you keep telling me that you want to do, right? So now we need to say, okay, affirmation, say, I am healthy. So the unconscious mind will say, okay, I'm doing healthy. Now, it's important to also mention, with regards to language and the unconscious mind, is that the unconscious mind doesn't understand negative. So if I say, I don't want to feel sad, it just crosses the don't and it says, I want to feel sad. Well, hey, there you go. Depression, sadness, all of that. So it's very important to use positive language. So I feel happy. I feel, accelerated, all of these, positive words. The other thing is that if you want to make plans, don't tell it, I am going to be happy, I am going to be rich, because that has no date. It can be tomorrow,
Right.
it can be in 300 years time. It doesn't care. So you use the words in the present tense. I am happy, I am rich, I am healthy, I am healed, I am all of these. This is important because this kind of positive language is basically putting the unconscious mind into actions that you want, that is actually supporting life. So
if you are you suggesting that what we need to do then is to create a set of positive affirmations that what do? We say every day, we tell ourselves? How long does it take, and how effective is it to do that?
It's super effective. And yes, the point is not only that you do the affirmation and you recognize that your unconscious mind is already, listening and acting on it. It's also on top of that, we're bringing other tools like recognizing the negative voice, recognizing the limiting beliefs, recognizing what is stopping you, and basically all together you're creating a new reality for yourself. So what I really like to say is that, yes, we have the unconscious mind, we have the conscious mind or negative voice, but now when we are in the process of change, we're bringing in another voice. And this is like the mirror, if you like, and it says, actually, that thing that you're just going through, or that you're saying to yourself, or that you're believing, is because of the negative voice, or it kind of helps you put things in place. And then you're able to say, oh, okay, I get it. So now I understand. And also when you understand why you do things, when you bring it out into the open, you're able to change it, because you realize that actually it's not working for you anymore. So, but affirmation and saying all this, positive lies, just say it all the time, like in the morning before you, as you wake up, before you go to sleep. Anytime you think about it, you want to think, oh, I'm sad today, just say I'm super happy, just change it. And that's what the subconscious mind hears. And that
really works. So yeah, interestingly, Michaela says, when my sister started a smoking cessation program, she was told that if someone offered her a cigarette, she shouldn't say, I'm trying to give up, but instead she should say, I don't smoke. And it worked, Michaela says. So yeah, that's
this is bringing us to the next phase, or next thing, which is about the self-image. Because if you don't see yourself as a smoker, then why would you take the cigarette?
Yeah,
that makes sense. As someone who is trying to smoke, then now we're over to willpower and that. So yes, self-image is super important. They say you can never outperform your self-image. So in terms of writing, for example, if I don't believe I'm a writer, I will find it so hard to write.
Yeah, but in fact, that's a good point, EINAV, because you are a writer, and you've got a book coming out on Monday, I think, called "The Power of Reinvention." So tell us a bit about that.
Yes, this is a very interesting project, actually. So I've co-authored this book with 9 other men and women. Each of us wrote a chapter about our own story of reinventing ourselves, moving really from pain and struggle into something, into what we are today. It's very interesting. It's a very inspiring book because, of course, 9 people, 10 people writing each about their story. You have a very wide variety of struggles, of real stories of real people and how they changed. For me, that was the first time, because I always knew that there was a book in me, and I didn't know how to make it happen. It was like really sitting on the fence in this one and saying, okay, when the time comes, it will happen. And then the universe just said, right, here's the opportunity. And I was like,
fantastic. Well, that's good. That's great. It sounds like a wonderful book. And please do, come and tell us in the group. Come and post when it's out, and give us the link so we can all see it and hopefully read it. That's brilliant. You have said that we've talked about understanding our internal conflicts and what drives them. So you've explained that very clearly. And I think is there anything more to say about why language itself is so important, as opposed to, is it important, for instance, to use should you also write things when you're changing these internal conflict? Is that, I mean, we can say, we can speak our affirmations, but what about writing them down? Is that a helpful thing to do as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's when we're going into journaling now. And the other thing that usually comes with journaling is also about gratitude. So, and that also brings us to the language. It's very important that we pay attention to what we say, how we speak, how we communicate to ourselves. I'll give you an example. One of my clients, when I speak with her, she's constantly, with the way that she's talking, you can see that she's keeping herself very much stuck inside the story, inside the problem. And every time when I try and open it up and say, hey, where are the possibilities, where are the opportunities, she can't see it, because in her mind, she consistently reaffirming the loop. I don't know. I can't see a way up. I can't recognize anything. It's all of this. It's very heavy language that really keeps her very small and very stuck. So my job with her is a little bit is quite more complicated, I could say, because I really need to help her change how she sees things, how she speaks about things. One very interesting thing, before I get back to the journaling, is very interesting to realize where your energy is. And this is again about communication. Say, for example, I say I don't want to be poor anymore. You know, I've been poor all my life. Don't want to be poor anymore.
Yeah.
Then you think, okay, why? What's happening basically? And then I say, well, I don't want to be poor because, you know, it's been such a struggle. You know, I never have enough money. I can't afford anything. It's a big problem. I don't want to be poor anymore. And then what happens is that if in my imagination, not being poor means that I have, I don't know, £5,000 in my account at all times. As soon as I reach £5,000 in my account, the energy finishes, because now that I've reached my goal, I don't have anything to keep it alive. If I change how I speak, and instead of saying I don't want to be poor, I can say, oh, I want to be wealthy. I want to be, you know, rich. And when I give the reasoning, I say, oh, I want to be rich so that I can always have enough money to, you know, to look at all my needs and all my wants. I can give to charity. I can feel very happy, and you know, life is awesome. Basically, when we look at that, it doesn't have an end date. It doesn't have an end scenario. So
there's no limit on it.
Exactly. So then that will always happen. It's very important to understand, to pay attention to this kind of conversation. This is called, you know, moving away from pain. I don't want to be poor, versus moving towards benefit or reward. I want to be rich. And so when you catch yourself in this kind of, when you listen to yourself, when you listen to the conversation or the words, the language that you're using, you can say, what's happening, right? How can I change that? Because when we change our language into moving towards language, we have more energy, we have possibilities, we have, you know, it's endless. So it also helps us to get lifted.
So are you suggesting that we shouldn't have specific goals? Because I mean, a lot of coaching is about goal setting, isn't it? So, you know, I want to have £5,000 in my account is one of my goals. But is that a bad thing, or is it okay to have specific goals but then make sure you expand them as you go?
This is such an interesting question. First of all, you can change it and say, I want to have 5,000 or more. So, you know, don't cap it, basically. Right. But actually, the goal is quite interesting, because when we have a goal, we're like, whoa, you know, what is going on? How am I going to get there? And also what we don't recognize is that we're really capping. We say, okay, this is what I want, and this is what I'm working towards. Instead, what can be so much more beneficial is to recognize the intentions, like what in all of these do I really want? So if I'm looking for a job, for example, I can say, right, I want to go and work for, I don't know, Zoom. But then it basically says, you know, here I am not knowing anything about anything, and I've already put myself in a box. If I use instead, I say, I want a job in a place that, you know, appreciates me, values me, where I can really bring my expertise and my knowledge and my strengths and my talents, and I get a free hand or enough autonomy to, you know, to really bring myself into the job. And my managers give me a free hand, and I am valued and I can give as much as I can, doesn't it change everything? So
yeah,
so
that makes perfect sense.
Right. It's exactly that. So it's about allowing things to actually take the, well, I should say it's basically it's being flexible enough to show the universe that this is what you want, but you trust the universe that it will give you what you really need. And again, that goes back to what I was saying earlier about trying to control outcomes. If I say, right, I want to go and work for Zoom or Facebook or whatever company, then it's very specific. It means that, I mean, what is it based on even, right?
Yes.
So it's about really recognizing the what are the elements of that wish that I have. I like the idea of having goals, of course, because that shows us the direction of where we are going. But it also, now it means, okay, let's take a step back and say, what is calling us when we're thinking about this goal that we want to create? And we're concentrating on the benefits of on the beautiful things that will make us feel so happy and content and all of that. And yes, so
yeah, so not being specific about things that don't really matter. It doesn't really matter if it's Zoom or Facebook or another company. It's about just achieving the emotions and the sort of life satisfaction that you dream about, rather than a specific outcome that may or may not happen.
You see, the thing is that we don't know, right? I mean, I really like to say that we grow with pain and discomfort, because if everything was comfortable, we would never move. And so whenever we feel this discomfort, we need to remind ourselves that something bigger and better is coming. And then we show up with curiosity and we're like, oh, I'm wondering how come this is happening at the moment. And when you allow it to happen and you allow for yourself to get the learnings and whatever is happening, then again, there's less suffering. So you're curious because you know that the unconscious mind is always preparing you for what you need, either by giving you the best experience or the best learning. Either way, you're going to get where you need to be. So instead of worrying about it, say, hey, universe, I trust you. Show me the way.
Right. That's a very comforting thought, isn't it? That, either you're learning or you're growing or you're in the right place. So that's great.
Yes. I mean, that's exactly it. Because, what do we know?
Yep. No, that's fantastic. So also, just to say, EINAV, you've also got 4 more books coming out soon. So just tell us a bit about them before we go. Yes.
So these books, they're called, they're series of 4 books in a series called Authentic Confidence, Investing in Self and Teams. And it was more geared towards really helping teams to become more free. So many times with my clients, I hear horror stories about, the managers and their work environment. And you're thinking, but why? If you have a choice, where would you actually prefer to be? In an environment that is very strict and very, blind to your needs and who you are, or in an environment that actually allows you to be yourself, allows you to blossom, that actually not only cares about your strengths and your talents, but actually help you to bring it into the, to the environment. So these books are really geared to team leaders and members as well. And it's talking about exactly all of these things, about imposter syndromes and being people pleasing at work, conflict avoidance at work, how to use the negative voice, how to understand that. And the opposite of that is about the self-image, how to create a self-image of someone that can really come into a company, into a team, and be that person that that you can be, and you don't have to hide because you don't really know if you be yourself, will everyone like you or everyone reject you? It's so much. There's so many, complex thoughts that comes when we come to a team. And then there's one that I really like as well. It's about communication styles and about understanding how come sometimes, you say one thing and the other person understands nothing.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So it's not, of course, about them necessarily. It's more about, it's about the gap in communication. And it's the language again. Yeah, exactly.
Using the right language that they can. Well, that. I mean, those books sounds great. So when are they coming out? Are they?
Yeah, they should come out around October. They're now in the publishing pipes.
Fantastic. Oh, well, once again, please do let us know when those are out. One last question, and I don't know, you may or may not want to answer it, but Michaela has asked, as she says, EINAV, may I ask what some of your own personal affirmations are, just to know more about you? But then she says, but if it's too personal, maybe you can share some that have worked well for your clients.
I guess I'll go with one of my clients, because it's quite it's exactly someone that I'm working with at the moment. This guy is suffering with chronic pain, and this is understanding of, you know, the mind-body connection, and understanding that pain in the body, in the physical body, comes from trapped emotions. Now, some people, when I say that, they become very defensive, and I get that. So I'm not trying to force any thoughts on anyone. But with this guy, he also understanding that he agrees with this statement, and the affirmation that he is saying to himself now is, I am healthy. I trust my unconscious mind to keep me happy and healthy. And he's saying that all the time. And the interesting thing for him is that he is able to say, okay, what is my pain level? Say it's 8 out of 10. And when he keeps saying that, keeping saying the affirmation, and also asking himself, you know, what emotions am I feeling? Because when we talk about emotions, we're clearing away pain. Then he is able to see that the pain level goes down, and
Wow.
it is really, really fascinating. And
yeah, certainly is. Well, that's been very fascinating and enlightening, and yeah, so much food for thought there. So I really look forward to reading your book. And thank you very much, EINAV, for coming on Lunchtime Learning today, and for sharing all your amazing insights and knowledge and practice. Thank you very much indeed, EINAV. It's been great to have you here.
Thank you. It was lovely being here. Thank you again for the opportunity.